Good afternoon. I'm Matt McNamara, here hosting the Scott and Wallace Live today. Just me today. No Robert and Clint. They are out, working hard and doing everything they can for all their clients. And the way the scheduling worked out, they decided that I would be the one to grace you with my presence today and go over everything with you. So today, when we're kind of deciding on what to talk about and what to go over, obviously I handle the firm's labor and employment division. So when we're talking about employment issues that pop up, this time of year is obviously the season of flu and colds and people being sick and calling out, and kind of what happens in those situations. As we've talked about in the past before, Florida is what we call an at-will employment state, which means that employers can fire you for any reason, good or bad. It just can't be for a discriminatory reason. And we're talking about somebody being under the weather or sick. The only law in place that really protects against an employee or an employer from firing you due to some medical issue is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And under the Americans with Disabilities Act, you have to meet the definition of a disability. And without boring you too much with those details, it's sufficient to say, generally, if an individual has the flu or a cold or something like that, that doesn't meet the definition of a disability under the ADA. Because it doesn't meet that definition, then generally you're falling under the fact that we're just an at-will state, which means even if you call out and you have a doctor's note, there's nothing preventing your employer necessarily from firing you for missing those days. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do or that's how a company should operate, but in the legal world, they are protected from liability if they base their decision based on an individual missing work. If you believe that it's some underlying, disability or, long-term illness, then certainly bring that up with your doctor. And if you're missing time from work due to some long-term disability or illness, then yes, your employer has to go through a different process before they can just terminate you for missing work due to that disability. But when you're out for the cold or have the flu, things like that, an employer isn't necessarily under an obligation to permit you to continue to work there, even if you have a doctor's note, and we see that all the time. Individual gives the documentation, they get fired, and they say, well, I gave them the doctor's note, they can't fire me. And unfortunately, it being an at-will state, there's nothing preventing them from doing that. I mean, they shouldn't do it, it's not a great way to run your business, but legally, they're under no obligation to work with somebody who's out with the flu. Under the law, their legal obligation is to pay you if you're going to be there, though. So when you are working, you need to make sure you're getting paid fair wages. You need to make sure if you're at a minimum wage job that you're getting paid minimum wage. You need to make sure that if you're an hourly employee that you're getting paid overtime if you're working over 40 hours a week. So both under federal law, overtime is mandated for employees that qualify for it. So if you're an hourly employee, your hours vary from 25 hours to 40 hours, sometimes up to 60 hours. There's no way for an employer to say, oh, well, I'll only hire you if you agree to work without overtime. It's a federal mandate, and employers are required to pay it if you're an employee that's entitled to it. And like everything we discuss on here, it's very fact intensive. There's a lot of kind of ins and outs and specific issues that can arise to help make that type of determination. I certainly don't expect everybody watching this to know right away, oh yeah, I'm a covered employee, or no, I'm an exempt employee for overtime purposes. So always feel free to give us a call and talk with us about your situation so we can determine whether you're entitled to overtime pay if you feel that you are and you're not getting paid for it. Again, going back to the main takeaway, when you have a cold or the flu, an employer is under no obligation to keep you around. But the main obligation that we run into a lot is if you're working, you need to get paid what you're supposed to be working. And if you're working overtime, they're required to pay you overtime. Is there any questions coming in for this exhilarating topic?
No questions right now. You have a lot of people watching, but no questions.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Good. Well, like I said,
hopefully everybody's healthy at home. I know it's like flu season right now, so.
Fighting through it, I've escaped it for the most part, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But again, the flu season goes on for a while, much longer than we normally anticipate. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves and feeling healthy. And if you do need to miss work, again, realize that your employer is not under an obligation to necessarily work with you, although that would be the right thing to do for a business. Give me a call if you've got any questions. Like I said, it's all very fact specific, and I don't expect everybody out there to be able to, you know, learn all of this in a 5-minute Facebook Live. So if you feel that there might be an issue with your employer, whether it be related to leave or your pay or your termination, feel free to give us a call and we'll walk you through your situation and see if there's anything we can do for you.
Awesome. How do they reach you?
You reach us on our website, scottandwallace.com, or give us a call here at the office, 850-222-7777. Fairly easy number, but we'll be happy to either give you a call back if we can't talk to you right then, or if you go onto our website and fill out a form with your information, we can email you back, we can call you back, whatever's best for you. We can always bring you in for a consultation here at the office to go over everything if you've got more questions.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next Tuesday, and hopefully for y'all's sake, it won't just be me.